time for Silver Linings with Greg Neal, physical gold and silver expert and wholesale supplier, answering your questions about how and where to store your hard-earned money with a rational sense of peace in troubled times.
We are back, and boy, are we excited. There's all kinds of amazing things happening here in this month of September, and this weekend particularly. The whole weekend is full of all kinds of interesting things going down, particularly here on Friday. There were amazing things that occurred. Our numbers in labor were down. The hiring rates were really low. It actually has affected the gold and silver market dramatically, which is, our primary interest is in you being able to get yourself some actual real money in your world. Our dollars are being crushed from all kinds of different areas and different parts of our economy. We have huge changes going on. Bix Weir is an individual that you can go to roadtoruta.com. That's roadtoruta.com and check out Bix Weir. His stuff is, I've been following Bix for years, is very, very powerful, and he's one of the premier experts in the silver and gold markets. He's talking about corrupt bankers don't seem to go to jail. Have you ever noticed that these banks get busted for pulling all kinds of little shenanigans, and they never seem to go to jail? Isn't that interesting? Jamie Dimon should be in jail right now, but he keeps playing this little card where he can just pay the fees, and no bankers ever go to jail. Think about that for a minute. They spend their time and resources cooking up ways to take your wealth, property, money, natural resources without you even knowing you were robbed until it's too late. Oftentimes showing up as the good guys coming to save the day. So what's new? Well, let me tell you. The information is coming from an article written by Julia Horowitz in CNN Magazine, which is a news source owned by the world bankers, by the way. Keep in mind that they only tell you a tidbit of the truth, or they will tell you the truth, but they hide it among other news and only keep it available for a brief moment, hoping you won't see it, so later, when they are exposed, they can say they told you. And this is exactly how things work out. If you can actually pull up, and we talked about this before many times on the show about Bloomberg television, the news. They'll actually tell you the truth about what's really going down as far as business in the world, and it's amazing how many of your just average individual, ordinary folks on the street have no clue about what's happening. All you really have to do is just turn on Bloomberg, and it'll talk about what's going down in Germany right now and Italy. And Russia. In fact, Putin's doing a huge interview with the Bloomberg folks right now, and he's talking about all kinds of conspiratorial type things that he's being blamed for right now regarding emails with Hillary and that kind of stuff. And all of this stuff is really just cover, by the mainstream media. The real truth of what's going on is the fact that our dollar is dying. And folks are not really, they just don't know about it yet. Recently, Melody and I were actually watching a little video promo on YouTube. Mark, what was Mark's last name, Melody?
I can't remember.
This gentleman talks about, this is an amazing story. So he goes out into Encinitas, Del Mar, California, on the streets, right next to a coin dealer. And he actually in one hand has 10 large, massive Hershey bars,
frozen, by the way,
fresh frozen, chocolate bars.
You can watch the YouTube videos if you want.
Go to YouTube and check this out. And in the other hand, he has a 10-ounce silver bar, just like the ones that we sell in our store.
And this is in 2012 when a 10-ounce silver bar was worth about $120.
$150, actually.
$150, okay.
So, over 20 people on camera, literally, guess what they did? What'd they do, Mel?
They chose the chocolate over the bar when they could have taken the bar right behind him and traded it in for cash.
Yep.
They didn't know what to do with the silver bar. They had no use for it.
Yeah, so they got all excited about the fact. In fact, their comments were related to, well, I can eat that Hershey bar. And
but what am I going to do with that silver?
Well, it's really quite interesting because they could go turn that silver in immediately and get $150, $160 right at that moment and go buy 160 Hershey bars if they really desired to.
He did it with a 1 ounce gold coin too.
Oh my gosh.
Completely different one. He was asking $25 for a $1,600.
He wasn't even asking for $25. He actually was like looking for somebody to at least give him $5.
I'll trade you your hat. I'll trade you for that box of noodles for how much did you pay for that box of noodles? $1.99. But no, I'll keep my noodles. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It really was absolutely shocking. And of course, Encinitas and Del Mar is, fairly close to the ocean. And, these were a bunch of surf rats and stoners, I think, for the most part, down there on the streets of Encinitas. But we were absolutely shocked. I actually am considering actually doing this on the streets of St. George and seeing how it goes.
I think we'd go broke.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that our listeners are more educated.
Yeah, if we did in fact do this, it'd be interesting if you called in at some point in time and said, "Hey, yeah, I'd like to, see you do that kind of thing, Greg." And I'm sure that those folks that listen to this show would have no problem with that. But of course, your average person on the street, it's amazing to me that I think a lot of the ladies that were on the street were more interested in going to Prada and buying a $3,000 new purse than they were, taking free money, which was the silver bar.
Well, we've digressed a little bit. There's some really important things that I'd like to share with you, and I'm going to just delve right in because we don't have a lot of time. 1 hour on the radio is not much time.
No.
So there's been some changes, guys, in the banking laws that I want you to be aware of. This is one of the things that they've posted up there for a brief nanosecond. Nobody's talking about it. And so let's do a little bit of history here. Back in 2008, when the Lehman Brothers debt collapsed, there was a mass exodus that people panicked and they pulled out $250 billion out of money market accounts. Now, money market accounts are used by big hedge funds to park cash because it's liquid. And you probably have a money market account. For those of you that do, you're going to want to listen really carefully. And so...
Although why you would have a money market account right now in the bank is beyond me.
Hush. We've got to get to this information. So the people, when Lehman Brothers crashed and their debt was, collapsed, there was $250 billion that was pulled out of these money market accounts. And the bankers or the banksters realized, wow, we need to fix this so that we can control money in a panic during a crisis. Now, you and I both know that in a crisis is when you need access to your money. And if you have a money market or a savings account or even money sitting in a checking account, that's where you're going to go to pull out cash so that you can take care of your immediate needs. Well, the banksters decided that they were going to limit your ability to do this. And so they changed the rules that govern money market accounts. And what they've done is first of all, the government guaranteed those funds too. So if there was ever a problem with that, you were guaranteed to get your money back. They no longer guarantee that you're going to get your money back.
So let me get this straight. I put my $100,000 or $200,000 or million or whatever it is into a money market account, expecting to actually receive some kind of payback, and you're telling me that there is no protections, no insurance on that money.
Not anymore. The new rules can freeze withdrawals entirely during a crisis or even incur fees charging you to take your money out.
Yeah, this is really interesting because last night we had a conversation with a gentleman that actually came in. By the way, we make ourselves available after hours now in our store. Reason being is there's so much interest in actually getting the metals right now.
It's critical. There's a time frame here, guys.
Yes, we're finding that these folks are in a time crunch and they should be thinking that way. So anyway, the gentleman comes in And on the other side of this break we're going to have, we'll discuss this further. I will tell you exactly what he did, and also the fees that were charged this gentleman that actually pulled out these funds. So on the other side of our break
we've
here,
got a lot to talk about.
We do. This is a major weekend, and there's a lot going on, folks. So I just want you to know that it is time to start really seriously considering. Not even considering anymore. Now we're in a moment where you make a decision. You need to act
on it
right now.
And we'll share with you why.
And we'll be
right back.
We'll be right back.
Traditional investments are losing their appeal. There is a process going on that is changing mindsets. Gold and silver is the purest money on earth. It can't be printed or created. Do you want to protect your wealth with insurance and give your family peace of mind? The Gold Ore Store, now is the time.
The Gold Ore Store, for your family's peace of mind. The Gold Ore Store, located on Main Street in historic downtown St. George.
All right, we're rocking and rolling here. We got so much to go over here. We're actually talking about your money, where it is in those banking systems right now that's getting all clogged up, and not only getting clogged up, but it's actually in a position where you may not be able to retrieve your funds.
You're listening to Greg and Melody Neal from the Gold Ore Store, Downtown Historic District.
Yep, 435-703-9119. Do not hesitate to call us at any time. Our phone is forwarded, even on Sunday, Monday. Basically, this is a huge weekend, so, either day, just call. You're not going to offend us. We don't take offense at that. We actually realize that we're in a situation now where you don't have any more time.
We're talking about how money market accounts are used by fund managers to park liquid cash because they historically are the safe investment which has been guaranteed by the government. And those rules have changed after the 2008 crisis when people panicked after the Lehman Brothers debt collapse. They pulled over $250 billion out of money market accounts, and the banksters realized that, oh, wow, we're going to need to change the rules on that to prevent people from being able to pull out their money. And they're changing these laws and putting more and more stipulations on how you can pull it out, how much you can pull it out, whether or not they're going to guarantee, which they are no longer guaranteeing those funds.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I want to just digress for just a moment and go back to, I want to tell folks what happened Thursday night. Gentleman calls up. He's a prior client. Basically, he's in a situation where he needs to move his funds into metals. He feels the urgency. He comes on. We make a special appointment with him, and we are making these times available now and after hours to actually meet with you one-on-one and actually perform similar, if not basically the same kinds of things, moving your funds or your Federal Reserve notes, paper promises, into real money, gold and silver, folks. So this gentleman actually pulls out funds. Guess how much they charged him in order to do this? He pulled out about $40,000, and he ended up having to pay about $6,000 in fees just to pull that money out. Now, we're not just talking about taxation issues here. This agency, and I won't name names because I'm not even clear on who it was that he had these funds with, but I believe it was an IRA or a 401.
It wasn't that much money. I mean, you'd think it would be $100,000 or more to accrue that kind of a fee, but it was.
Now get this, folks, and I highly recommend you actually take a look at your documents that you have regarding your deposits in these organizations. 401ks, IRAs, whatever it is, the bank, whatever it is, and check the fine print or have a legal, expert actually take a look, because this guy got nailed for over $6,000. And this was not like, we're not talking about taxes because that's not even due until the next year anyway, but they made him apparently take this money out as part of this process and actually just pay them right there and then. If that doesn't concern you or scare you right now, I don't know what will, because these financial institutions are going to do everything in their power to keep you in the markets. That's why there's such high taxation rates in this process. You know, the stock market's going crazy, hon. Basically on Friday we're well over 100 points up. The Dow's up, the Nasdaq's up, all the markets are up. Dollar's actually down because our labor numbers suck. They're telling us some truth. And, of course, they can't raise interest rates. Janet Yellen can't even touch these numbers right now. She'd be absolutely insane to do so. Why? Because they don't want to be blamed for destroying the economy.
Well, Sunday is the G20, where China's going to challenge the world currency, and they can prove that they're backed by gold. They've already converted to a gold-backed currency. So, right. Guys, we've got some serious things going on. And just to get back to the money market issue, I really want to hit home. I come from the financial background. I was a regional sales officer for a major financial institution in California back in the 80s when, thanks to our beloved President Nixon, who took us not only off the gold standard and put us on a petrodollar, which we're not even backed by petro anymore, he also deregulated the banks. And what that did is that gave the bankers the ability to gobble up all the small county banks and trusts. And when they started doing that, they started to have more and more power to control the dollar. So now we're in a situation where we have basically one family, the Rothschild family, that almost owns all the banking institutions in the world. They control your money. They have put new rules in place governing money market accounts. They no longer have to guarantee to give you your money back if you're parking money in a money market. And for the big, huge fund managers who are parking money from retirement accounts and those types of investments, 401ks and that kind of thing, you may want to look in to see where your money's being parked, because they're pulling them out in the billions of dollars right now, the hedge fund managers, because they realize that it is no longer a safe place to park their money.
Right. The government is basically in collusion with all banks, folks, and they're just basically embezzling or stealing our money.
If it's in a prime, yeah.
We have $8.5 trillion unaccounted for through Pentagon. They cannot account for $8.5 trillion in taxpayer funding right now. These funds are just out there. No one can seem to figure out where this money went. And apparently the Army's financial book accounting is like a mobster's, books. Cooking the books.
Pay attention, guys. You may not have a money market account, but you may have a retirement account. And you want to look for where they're parking their money. Because a lot of the prime funds are converting into government debt-only funds because they feel it's a safer investment now. And even the biggest players are moving really, really fast. I think just in a 4-week period of time, there was like $50 billion that were pulled from money market accounts and put into government debt funds. Mm-hmm. So if you have a prime fund or you have a 401k where they've parked money in a money market, or you own a money market account, don't trust the banks are going to tell you the truth about the laws that have been changed, because the ones in the banks may not be aware of it. They're not told all of that. Okay, so what was the Federal Reserve really talking about in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Greg?
Oh, well, it's all...
We had that big meeting, their yearly meeting.
Yeah.
And Janet Yellen came out with really, really important updates.
Yeah, it's so important. They had absolutely nothing to give us by the time everything was over with. It was basically, I don't even know why these guys actually formally meet anymore, because they're not accomplishing anything other than continually destroying our economy here in the United States of America and the rest of the world. So
Yeah, so what they weren't talking about, what was not announced, was the war on cash.
Oh yeah, what this has been, yeah, exactly. They will never tell you straight up, but they'll just keep telling you that, at first it was removing the $5,000, $10,000 notes, the $1,000 notes, then the $500 note. This has actually occurred within the last 100 years. We just continually actually drop it down. Now they're whining and crying about actually taking away the $100 note, which is rather interesting considering the fact that they actually just recently changed it just a couple years ago to the basically telling us the new $100 note is telling us that we're going back to a gold-backed security.
So what do we mean by cash wars? Well, we are not talking about terrorism, money laundering, or leaving you vulnerable to confiscation if you're caught carrying large amounts of currency. Mm-hmm. We're talking about, because here we got the central banks are printing more and more money. So how can they ever expect to control cash in the future? Well, this is what they were talking about in Jackson Hole. We're talking about electronic entries on a ledger of the biggest banks in the world. And how are they going to control your movement? How can they,
Yeah, it's kind of like back in the day, several years ago when Washington Mutual, we used to live in the Northwest, and Washington Mutual used to do these great commercials. And one of them was, it was funny, but not. They had a UPC actually attached to the head of each individual that would be in line. And they'd grab their heads, and actually, they'd run the head, with this little printed barcode on their forehead across the reader before they could actually even do business with the bank. Now, think about that. Really, a lot. The other place, of course, it would be your wrist, where you literally just run your wrist across with either something injected into you, or here's this printed UPC that's basically like a tattoo.
So we're talking about the war on cash, guys, and what's coming down the pike. And you're going to want to hear this, so stay with us. You can call us at 435-703-9119. We'd love to hear you.
We'll be right back.
Have you lost trust in the government? Have you lost trust in your bank or investment portfolio? Are you just flat out scared right now about what is coming on the horizon? If you're ready for another choice in where and how to store your hard-earned money, Greg Neal, physical gold and silver expert and wholesale supplier, has answers and a rational sense of peace in troubled times.
Now is the time to make a change. This is Greg from the Gold Ore Store. Come in or call 435-703-9119. Right back with you. This is Greg and Melody from the Gold Ore Store, St. George, Utah. We're wholesale discount brokers of gold and silver.
But we're not talking about gold and silver today. We're talking about the war on cash.
Right, which ends up getting you out of those filthy, dirty Federal Reserve notes and into actual real money. Want to talk a little bit about Congressman Ron Paul. He's probably one of the most credible, knowledgeable, politically connected people in the United States. There's some historical proof to this crushing of dollars. Fiat currency has never held up, and it never will hold up, folks. So unless those dollars are actually backed by something of real value and something physical, gold and silver is generally how it ends up falling. They're worthless. They're just pieces of paper that you and I claim that we accept as being real money, at least for the moment. So government creation of continental dollars became worthless in 1 year. You may or may not be aware of that. In 1861, President Lincoln authorized the creation of greenbacks as currency. The value dropped 66% over several years. In 1933, President Roosevelt gave Americans 1 month to turn in all their gold to the Federal Reserve. People lost 41% of their savings in 1 day. And by the way, they actually sold that gold just a couple weeks later and made more than a $10 profit on each one of those gold coins. And made it
illegal for the regular Joe who might not have turned their silver in, criminals and. I always thought FDR was the greatest socialist ever until Obama got elected. So you just sit with that for a moment.
In 1971, Nixon unlinked the dollar to gold with a stroke of a pen. Since then, the dollar has dropped more than 90% in value. Presently, bank bail-ins, pension confiscation, and negative interest rates already happening in Europe and Japan. By the way, both Europe and particularly Japan right now is really, really suffering. Major problems in Japan. Negative interest rates, folks, which means you have to pay the bank when you deposit that money. Now, think about that for a minute. There is no more payments paid to you in interest. You pay an interest rate to deposit your funds into a bank.
Well, and we're going to talk about some of the things that are coming down the pike. We're talking historically right now. This is proven fact. You can do your research. You can find the documentation that will verify what Greg is sharing with there today. But in Wyoming, when the Federal Reserve got together for their yearly meeting, they were talking about a new scheme that they're coming up with, and it's coming down the pike. We already know that negative interest rates are being handed over in Japan and in Germany?
Europe, yeah. Europe. Well, not Germany yet, but with Deutsche Bank's disastrous situation coming soon.
So we're talking about electronic entries, ledgers of the biggest banks in the world. Now, guys, we've got automatic deposits. Social Security can be automatically deposited. Your paychecks can be automatically deposited. But right now, we can't really get away from completely get away from cash in some things, but depending on who you believe, the total value of all the coins, banknotes on the planet is about $5 trillion. The CIA World Fact Book tells us that the total value of broad money, now broad money is coins, banknotes, plus the money market accounts that we talked about earlier in the show today, and savings accounts, checking accounts, and time deposits is more than 16 times larger, which is $80.9 trillion.
And by the way, you can find a lot of this information, including what Mel is just talking about, at usdebtclock.com. Very, very powerful.
So the gap between physical money and broad money is the key to their diabolical plan that they were talking about at the Federal Reserve Bank that nobody's talking about, and we're going to share with you. There was a gentleman from the university, Carnegie Mellon University, named Marvin Goodfriend, who gave a talk about a paper that he wrote. And the title of the paper was "The Case for Unencumbering Interest Rate Policy at the Zero Bound." Jim Rickards, if you follow Jim Rickards, he says a better title would be "How to Win the War on Cash Once and for All."
Yep, it's the cash is king in so many ways, but the truth of the matter, it's hardly a king of what, the gutters.
So really the bottom line of the letter was to institute fees for depositing and withdrawing your own money. They want to make the rate of exchange for currency that you have in your wallet a different value than the money that you have in your bank. And so if they can encourage and lull people into a false sense of security that their money is better off in a bank than in their wallet, then they can control the inflow and the outflow. And if they wanted to freeze the accounts overnight, they could cut off your ability to have access to your money, which
right.
They're already putting laws in place to assist them in doing just that. Now, we're not talking about something that is off the wall, guys. This was the topic of the Wyoming Jackson Hole Federal Reserve meeting. And so just to give you an example, let's say you have $1,000. Your neighbor buys your motor scooter and pays you $1,000, and then you take that to the bank to deposit it. The bank is only going to give you credit. Now, this is just an example of what they were talking about. They're going to give you credit for $980 instead of the full $1,000. Which is basically a negative interest rate. That's
exactly what it is. This is it's kind of the concept is just outrageous, and as if we haven't been paying anyway.
They want you dependent on the system.
Yeah,
They
right.
want you so tied in and so fearful that you are completely tied into the system, and then they can just to mention the Obama changing you from from a depositor
to an investor, which makes you a partner in the bank, and so therefore you would supposedly take values never in the increase, but always in the decrease. And notice that as a depositor, you never make any money on your money.
When there's a loss, it hits us. The people. It does not hit the bankers. They just confiscate it. They change the rules so that they can capitalize on the situation. They make money no matter what.
Win-lose environment.
But we're the losers. We take the bite. We lose our pensions. We lose our 401ks. So
it's just crazy. First of all, they charge you negative interest when you actually deposit your money. So you deposit $1,000, you get credit for $980. This is just a scenario. Then they take that $900, or actually they take that $1,000 because they're taking as far as credit, and they create 10 to 100 times more money. So anywhere from $10,000 to $100,000 in credits that they lend out.
Now, there's another side to this. They're not only going to charge you for depositing it, they're going to charge you when you pull it out. So now you want $1,000 cash, they're only going to give you $980.
This is why
you're getting hit going in and going out. But if you leave it in the system where they can control it, where they can see where you're spending your money, what you're buying, what the trends are, who is doing what, so then they can sell advertising and be able to do direct marketing.
Yeah, through Facebook
and
or whatever.
Of course, they control the food. They control the distribution of food. And if they want us on our knees, all they have to do is just freeze up those funds, have a bank holiday, laugh all the way to the bank, and who gets hurt?
Yeah, the real thing about this, we got about a few minutes left that we've got to discuss. But, basically what we want here is for you to really start thinking about your relationship with your bank or your financial institution. That could be, in all cases, it really comes down to banking. And banking and insurance are together like two peas in a pod. So both of those entities actually hold each other together. And why? Because they're basically paper promises. Even any insurance policy is basically is a paper promise. We're betting against the fact that we're not going to die or whatever it is, and the fact is that they're betting that you will. And on the long term, you're going to be paying more money in than you're ever going to get out, and that's why these banks are making so much money off of you.
So you're listening to Greg and Melody Neal from the Gold Ore Store. We're on 7 North Main Street, downtown, right here in St. George. You can find us on the net. Our website is goldore, O-R-E, store.com. You can email us with any questions that you have at thegoldoresstore@gmail.com, or just give us a call. Set up an appointment when you can come in and have one-on-one. We're at 435-703-9119.
You can hear us on Kate Dalley's show once a month. That varies as far as the day, but we are always on Fridays on her show. And we're also on Mondays at 4 o'clock, every other Monday. And we're on Wednesdays now every week at 4:30. So tune in and check us out, because we always have relative, issues regarding the economy and your money and other ways to, take those funds and actually create some value in your world rather than, paper promises. We'll be right back after the break.
Gold and silver is the purest money on earth. It can't be printed and it can't be created. Gold and silver is money and insurance for your family. We hope you never need it, but wouldn't you rather have peace of mind? The Gold Ore Store. Now is the time.
The Gold Ore Store, for your family's peace of mind. The Gold Ore Store, located on Main Street in historic downtown St. George.
Right back with you. This is Greg from the Gold Ore Store, St. George, Utah, historic St. George, Utah, 7 North Main, 435-703-9119. Well, here we are. We're talking about Deutsche Bank now and what's going on with Deutsche. Just the other day, they basically are refusing to deliver physical gold upon demand. This is actually, and you can find this in Zero Hedge. It's very amazing. On the 2nd of September, Zero Hedge released this information that Deutsche Bank is refusing delivery of physical gold upon demand. Now, do you realize out there what this means? This is the first major bank that actually refused delivering the gold. Now, why would they be refusing to deliver the gold? Just think about that just for a moment. Could it be that they don't have the gold? Well, I can tell you for a fact that's actually the case. They do not have the gold. They've been actually trading in derivatives for the last, 100 years. And these derivatives are basically paper certificates that basically they trade on the big boards on the COMEX, the commodities market out of Chicago, Illinois, and the world market of gold and silver. These markets are absolutely rigged. The reason they're rigged is they're not actually producing and cannot produce the real hard goods. This is why, guys, we are dealing with these outrageously ridiculous prices in gold, silver, copper, all of the metals, platinum, palladium, you name it, every single one of them, aluminum, on the boards. The numbers are ridiculous. Right now, in silver, I can never stop talking about silver. And the reason I talk so much about silver is the fact that it is so undervalued. It is so unbelievably, ridiculously undervalued that if you have not considered silver right now as an investment vehicle, as an insurance policy, a really true insurance policy for yourself, you hold physical metals. We do not endorse or sell ETFs, which is an exchange traded fund, or anything else that's actually basically paper or digitized on your computer that you could look at to see what's in your account. That gold and silver, as far as I am concerned, does not exist, folks. It does not exist because you cannot prove it ever to anyone. So you may have, whatever stores of gold and silver in your, Swiss bank account, and it may say, you've got 100 ounces of gold and, 4 million ounces of silver or whatever the heck it is. The truth of the matter is you have nothing. And the reason you actually truly have nothing is the fact that you cannot quantify that because it's not either sitting right in front of you or in your safe right now. You can't open up the combination to your safe, pull open that door, and actually grab those items. That is the only way to hold gold and silver. There's only one small caveat to that. I'm kind of pro mining stocks, but not like over the top. I mean, that's about the only thing I would get in right now as far as that type of thing is concerned. And even that is questionable. So I'm not endorsing that. I just kind of have some affinity for it. But, folks, it's about gold and silver. It has always been about gold and silver. Why, again, here's a question for you. Why would all the major states of government all over this world actually have stores of gold? And yes, that actually even includes our government. Now, it may not look like any gold being stored in Fort Knox. No one seems to know the real truth about that. My guess is that it may, in fact, not be there. But I can tell you this much. I do know for a fact that they have huge stores of gold in mines that no one is allowed into. That property is completely locked down by the Marines. It's basically protected. And these mines are located in the Grand Canyon is one of them. Another one is in California in the Chocolate Mountain Range. These are huge, massive stores of gold mines, just incredible amounts of gold. So it may not be in a minted form stored anywhere, but these governments basically know what's up and they know what's going down. And particularly China has recently released some information regarding their storage through the Canadian Bank and the RMB, Royal Mint of Canada. has actually stated that they have right now the number one. Actually, the Chinese banks, they have a huge store of gold. So their tonnage right now is what they're claiming right now is about almost 2,700 tons. These are metric tons of gold. There's an enormous amount of gold. We're supposed to have somewhere around 7,000 in storage in the U.S. government. Whether that's legitimate or not is another story. But back to this Deutsche Bank situation. It's really interesting for a major bank, which is on its deathbed basically right now, to actually, verbally and in writing state that they cannot deliver physical gold upon demand. This is going to affect the entire. In fact, on Friday the numbers went crazy. Okay, in the gold and silver market, our labor numbers were absolutely pathetic. Okay, and this is what the story that they were creating basically was we're dropping down the values of silver and gold over these last few weeks because the numbers for labor we're just going to wait on those, and in the meantime these guys are making money on the down, by the way, folks. They're hedge betting on both sides, on the drops and on the increases. And so they get paid both ways. They don't care about you and I. Okay? Bankers and these Treasury Department people and those in the Fed do not care about you and me. We mean nothing to them. Okay? And so it is time to start making decisions for your benefit to actually do something that's going to make a difference. And that difference may look like for you getting some physical metals. It's such a powerful, easy way to actually make a difference and have something that you can store in your home, in whatever way you choose to do that is your choice. But silver right now is so low, and it is rising as far as, we're over 20 as far as sell rate. We're going to be in 21, 22 again. And, it's the craziest things. Utahns will actually wait until a price actually, and this is just my experience being a precious metals dealer. I will tell you this just straight up. I have seen more folks from the state of Utah wait until the numbers actually rise 25, 30, towards 40. They will spend more money on the up than they will ever spend when silver was $12, $13, $14 an ounce. Why is this, folks? Why is it that you play this game? You're dealing with a market that is absolutely manipulated. It wouldn't matter right now if it was $40. It is so undervalued. Right now, the true value of silver is approaching $900 an ounce. You can go to usdebtclock.com, right-hand corner, bottom of the market. You'll see these numbers, and they're going to blow your mind. And they are the real truth of what is actually the amount of currency that's out there, which is all fiat fake currency, as opposed to the amount of silver out there available for purchase. And it is going to get to the point, folks, where you are not able to actually even buy silver. If you right now, if you're holding off on this and just kind of waiting this thing out like you have for the last several years or many, many years, or you've been frustrated with the market, you're not dealing with real numbers here, folks. These are manipulated, absolutely rigged numbers to the benefit of one people or one organization, banks. Final. That's it. That's all this is. That's all we're dealing with here. We are the Gold Ore Store, St. George, Utah. We're 7 North Main, St. George, Utah. Please call us. We are taking appointments even after hours now for folks who deserve to have this kind of thing in their space right now. We are talking to folks about taking these folks are actually removing funds out of their IRAs and out of their 401ks and things of this nature because they feel like something is going down. And why do they feel like something's going down? Because they ain't getting much for that money anymore, or what we call money, those Federal Reserve notes. Gold Ore Store, St. George, Utah, 435-703-9119. Our website is goldorestore.com. You can search us out on Google. We're at the top of the listings. We've been getting fantastic reviews. Check out our reviews. Check out who we are. We're BBB accredited firm. We're actually very excited to be here. It's taken a lot of work over the years to build a recognition of who we are and what we do here. We are different. We do things differently. You know, the old guard, things are changing in all arenas. And now it's time to actually make a difference for you. If you're ready to do something, we want to talk. We want to sit down with you and have a chat. Our time is basically about there today. I'm really grateful to be able to speak with you. Please give us a call, 435-703-9119. Thank you so much for your attention. I look forward to these personal conversations with you. So please call. And you have a beautiful day.
Join us every other Monday at 4 p.m. here on Fox News Radio for Silver Linings with Greg Neal. You can find Greg at the Gold Ore Store on historical Main Street in downtown St. George.